I'm like mid yawn right now. It went away. So this talk, like a lot of these talks, probably is going to have to do with my mental illness and just trying to explain it in layman's terms so that people can understand it and what we as mentally ill people go through. So today I'm talking about symptoms and the major disconnect between mentally ill people and people who don't have it and haven't been around it, don't have a loved one who's mentally ill. The major disconnect is that most people do not make the connection that it's an illness, just like any other illness. Just like someone with diabetes or Crohn's disease or MS or any sort of sickness or malady that anyone can have, it's the same. It's just that our symptoms manifest themselves differently in a way that makes people think you're crazy. Well, I'm going to get to that later, but what I want to talk about today is something a little more specific, and it's the way we, as mentally ill people, recover from having symptoms. And I don't know if this video is ever going to be shared with anybody or if it's just... My mom is like doing the goofiest fucking eye movements right now while I'm trying. She's going... It's like, here's the camera and here's her eyes and I'm talking and she's doing some like Morse code with her eyes.
I couldn't see what time it was on, but if I winked my...
Jesus Christ!
I can see...
I'm trying so hard to concentrate and all I can see is this just... Anyway... What the hell am I talking about? Here's the deal. This is what I'm talking about, okay? And I don't know if anybody's going to see these. Anyone who knows me already will not be surprised by my language and my cadence and my verbiage and all this stuff. But otherwise, this is how I talk, so just get used to it. I'm going to make an analogy because I had a really pretty severe manic episode earlier today. 2 of them, in fact. I spent a couple hours of this day crying and freaking out and pacing and talking very, very fast. And being really upset about things and just... People around me have told me lately that it's like I'm keyed up on something. And I know that I'm going through a period of mania. So, earlier today, just a little while ago, less than an hour ago, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I spent 20, 30 good minutes pacing around, frantically just going on about my life and these patterns and these things that I'm going through and whatever. I had this really big bad manic episode and I'm going through this mania. I'm having a rough day and Tennessee is losing in basketball. And so now I'm getting into it with all kinds of people on Shaggy or on Surly. Now I'm like getting in arguments with people and... Whereas in reality, I normally comport myself pretty reasonably. Today, I'm not. Today, I'm real combative. I'm really coming at people. You know, the gloves are coming off a little bit. It's not my finest moment. And then in my real life or my physical life out here, I'm out here having a manic episode. And it's, if anyone witnessed it, if anybody saw the way I was acting or anyone who I interacted with on Shaggy, it's just going to be like, this is a psychotic person. This is a crazy person. Okay, well, I'm not an expert on Crohn's disease, but I do have a friend who suffers from Crohn's, thrives with Crohn's, is really how I would describe her. And so, pardon me if anything I'm about to say is inaccurate, but I think I pretty much got the gist of it. So, for example, people with Crohn's. First, let me make a comparison I do know a little more about. Diabetes. If you know anybody with diabetes, if you have diabetes, someone with diabetes, their pancreas does not produce and regulate insulin like a normal pancreas. And so they have to, inject insulin. I don't really know. They take insulin. They take measures to take care of this situation. And nobody walks around telling diabetic people, why don't you just regulate, why don't you just create your own insulin? Like a normal person. I do it every day. I don't even think about it, literally. I just do it. I don't even try. It's just done. Why don't you just not be the way you are? But that's kind of the reaction you get when you act like a psycho when you have mental illness. Well, we don't want to be this way any more than anyone with diabetes wants to have a pancreas that doesn't do its job on the insulin front. But that's how it is. So, Someone with Crohn's disease, one day or 1 minute, they might be feeling themselves, feeling good, feeling normal, feeling great, and then the symptoms come in, and then they can get bloated, they can get sick. I'm talking about everything they put in their body just attacks them and fights them. I'm talking about shit and blood, you know what I'm saying? Like normal slim people with big ass distended stomachs, cramping, just in pain, just on the toilet, like, just picture like the worst, you know, night of like drinking beer and then eating Taco Bell and shit like that you've had, and then act like that shit just happens to you out of nowhere times 10, right? That sucks, right? That person is going through that. So anybody with any sickness, any illness, sometimes they have bad days and sometimes they have real bad days. And so someone with Crohn's having a real bad day might look a lot like what I described. But then they do the things they need to do to try and take care of the situation. It's a sickness they've had for a long time. They know how to deal with it. They take the measures they need to take. And at some point they're healed. Maybe it's the next day, not healed, but better. Maybe it's even later that day. Maybe even, later that day they're feeling better and feeling their normal selves. This makes sense to everybody. Everybody gets that. Everyone registers that. Someone like me, though, if you come across me like on Shaggy, and I'm having a manic episode, and I'm not doing well, and I'm not my best self, and I'm having a bad day, and my symptoms are coming up, and I'm talking a lot in real life, and I'm on that keyboard on my fucking phone, actually just jamming out, all these 500 word replies, and I'm combative with everyone, and I'm just being a psycho all day. I'm in here crying and pacing and talking about this fucking existential crisis stuff. You're going to look at that person and not see a sick person showing symptoms. You're going to be like, wow, what a psycho. But here's the crazy thing. That was less than an hour ago. I got that shit out of my system. I drank some water. Mom was like, yo, why don't we go work in the backyard? It's a beautiful day outside. Went and did that for a little while. Smoked some marijuana to calm my nerves. And when I was out in the backyard, I got a lot of nice thinking in, just really time to relax, because when you get so tense and upset, your muscles and everything becomes, your whole body language, your whole shit, you don't even realize it is so negative. And marijuana is such a blessing for that. It releases, your muscles relax, your mind relaxes, you get that time to think to yourself and become yourself again. And now, I'm about to wrap this video up. I think you can tell that, yes, I'm still manic, but I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm feeling normal. So what I'm saying is, if you and I 3 hours ago had a confrontation on Shaggy, and then you come across me again, now you're looking at me going, there's that motherfucker, there's that dumb, crazy bastard, that idiot, bipolar piece of shit. And I'm just over here like totally moved on. I'm not upset anymore. I'm fine. My symptoms they've subsided. I'm over here. I'm not even caught up in the Tennessee game anymore. I'm over here talking about soccer or whatever. And that's a really unique thing to mentally ill people, and it makes it a challenge to foster and create meaningful relationships when every time your symptoms show up, people just think that's who you are. You are a crazy person. Well, people with Crohn's aren't constantly shitting blood and bloated. People with diabetes aren't constantly, about to go into a coma, drooling on themselves, refusing sugar, okay? People with any sickness aren't constantly at their worst. There's ebbs and flows, there's highs and lows. I be freestyling, that's how it goes. Anyways, but it's really hard for people to make that connection. That earlier I was acting like a psycho. I really was acting like a psycho. I really was. I was at a low point. I was very symptomatic, and now I'm calmed back down. But to be fair to everyone else who's out there, like, if I was an asshole to you earlier, I shouldn't expect you to just move on and forgive me like I do. I'm used to this. This is probably a defense mechanism. I'm assuming this is in the nature of mentally ill people. If you're going to have so many highs and lows, you got to be able to move on from them, just like anybody else with any other illness. So I would just say, if you don't have mental illness, if you don't understand mental illness, nobody you love has it. If you get a chance to interact with someone more than 1, 2, 3, 4 times, try not to paint them as their worst self, as if that is who they are all of the time in their heart and in their mind. No one could ever exist in life if a mentally ill person was that worst version of ourselves all the time. It's the exception and not the rule, but it's so noticeable, it's so loud, it's so out there, you know. Diabetics, people with Crohn's, they get to have their worst moments in private more often than not. And mentally ill people, we really don't. You know, and I would try and wrap this video up with just saying, you know, for example, I know there are a lot of people who believe Shaggy is bad for him. And I understand that line of thinking. They see it bring the worst out of me at times. And certainly in years past, before I did a lot of growing up, it really was very bad for me. But I decided at some point I either had to quit or use it as a tool to improve myself. And that's what I've done. My posting record speaks for itself. I'm not nearly the same combative, belligerent person I used to be. But I understand the people who think it's bad for me. I would just want to explain, it's not Shaggy, it's just my life. Sometimes I have bad days, and if I decide to post on Shaggy that day, it's going to manifest itself. It doesn't mean that Shaggy is bad for me any more than driving is bad for me. When I'm in the left lane one day and someone's pissing me off, that doesn't mean driving is bad for me. It means I'm having a bad day. So if you can ever possibly just keep that in mind and try and understand the psychology behind it a little bit, just that, or the science behind it really, just that this person, this worst version of them that you see at times, that's not who they are as a person. That's them, unfortunately, you know, showing symptoms in public. And to be fair, it's our responsibility. For me, walk away from the keyboard, go outside, do the things you need to do. If I stay engaging people and getting in fights, that's on me. That's not to absolve myself of any responsibility. That's why I don't act a fool out in public. I'm going to wrap this video up saying this. I've had a lot of rages in this house. If this video series goes anywhere, you'll probably see my room one day. You'll probably see how torn up everything in my end of the house is. And all I can say for myself is I have a lot going on inside of me, but I know when I'm out in public, I can't be that way. So we do our best to not be symptomatic in public. And when we are, we do what we can do to de-escalate. We do what we can do to separate, to calm down, to leave the situation, you know. It's difficult, but it is embarrassing when it does happen in public. And it's a lot easier to happen publicly online than it is in life. And so even if you see someone who is, she's doing the eye thing again. I got to stop this video. Even if you see someone who's just all the time nutso, man, just kind of try and understand that they're probably a normal person a lot of the time, but they're having a bad day. Jesus.